What does that have to do with TARP?
What does that have to do with?
What does that have to do with TARP?
The question I'm responding to here is your idea that somehow the way that you help businesses compete and become prosperous is forcing them to pay their higher wages to everybody.
That's not what I said. What I said was that rather than giving trillions of dollars to big banks, we should be looking at Main Street. We should be looking
Why
at
should
small
we be
businesses.
giving trillions of dollars to anybody? Let people keep their own money.
Because the house is on fire. Because the house is on fire, Michael, and you know the house is on fire. We got to do something.
Right.
I think we are agreeing. I haven't heard you address
Right.
it directly, but I suspect that we agree that the direction that both the Bush and the Obama administrations have taken to deal with this house being on fire, this economic house, is the wrong method.
Okay, I actually am going to disagree with you about that, because I do not believe that right now, and I agree with you that the house is on fire, but to allow the entire financial system worldwide to collapse is simply not an option. And by the way, I will salute President Obama for not playing politics on that issue.
But if just as a simple question, if these derivatives are bets on bets on bets on bets on bets on credit default swaps, which are basically mortgage insurance that a mortgage isn't going to default, and so you've got a $1,000 mortgage here that has become a $4 billion series of bets, and that mortgage defaults, and so $4 billion goes down the drain, and we give $4 billion to the banks because a $100,000 mortgage failed. Why not simply cover the $100,000 mortgage?
By the way, you know, there was a candidate in the last election who supported precisely that approach, and his name was John McCain.
I know. I'm saying a pox on older houses.
All right.
I have a question, Michael, from the audience. Do you think it is necessary to prosecute the Bush administration for war crimes, constitutional violations, in order to restore the United States standing at home and in the world?
Do I think it is necessary to prosecute the Bush administration? Not only do I not think it is necessary, I do not think it is appropriate. I can think of nothing in our public life that would be more destructive of this sense of commons that Thom, I think, rightly says that we need as a nation. I mean, President Bush left office, and left office with right, thank you, great applause. But the obsession with President Bush after leaving office, it would seem to me, is counterproductive, not just for Republicans, but for the United States of America. We haven't... Of course they need someone to blame, but the point is, then blame George W. Bush for the fact that the expectations of the entire world were confounded. After September 11th, 2001, there was a heavy expectation of receiving a terror attack. The one thing that one at least should salute President Bush and, yes, Vice President Cheney for accomplishing is managing to keep us all safe, or do the people in this audience or the other people on this stage agree with the truly loony left that there is no real terrorist threat? Thom, is there a real terrorist threat to the United States of America?
Yes, there is, and Bush and Cheney should be prosecuted for war crimes.
And Thom, okay, let's work on this for just a moment.
You understand the Constitution. You're a constitutional scholar. You understand, the First and the Fourth Amendment at the very least. George Bush was wiretapping people before 9/11 in violation of the Constitution. So much so in violation of the Constitution that when Andrew Card and Alberto Gonzalez went to John Ashcroft's hospital bed after his surgery to get him to sign off on continuing that wiretapping, Ashcroft refused to do it and threw them out. It took the director of the FBI to throw them out.
By what legal precedent is unauthorized wiretapping a war crime? I mean, how is that a war crime? You may think it's illegal, and we can argue about that. But in what sense is illegal wiretapping of people, what you hold to be illegal, a war crime, for God's sake? A war...
That is a crime against the Constitution, and I think that they should be prosecuted for that.
Okay,
the war crime
you're
that they should
correcting
be prosecuted
yourself.
for, the war crime that they, yeah, you're right, my language was imprecise. The war crime, frankly, I'm very concerned about the crimes against the Constitution, because I think that that's something that's going to last for hundreds of years and would be very destructive
Okay,
to
so
us.
wait,
But
so
the
wait,
war
let's-
crime, you asked me the question, let me give
Sure.
you the answer. The war crime is lying to us about a threat that they knew did not exist, sending us into a war that has led to the death of hundreds of thousands of human beings, that has created a diaspora of over 5 million Iraqis, that has led to the death of 4,000 Americans, that has spent trillions of dollars of our cash, that has squandered our wealth around the world, and that has empowered Iran in a way that only Iran could have wanted.
Okay.
That said, I would frankly rather see them prosecuted for violating the Fourth Amendment, because I think that our constitutional rights are you know, a war or not a war. I mean, we could go back and we could prosecute LBJ for the Tonkin Gulf in Vietnam too, if you want. And you know, I'm not opposed to that. But I am very concerned about the integrity of our Constitution. And this administration has taken a meat axe to it, and that, frankly, is something that concerns me tremendously.
Okay.
I mean, the former.
Let me just say, I think that what we've just seen here is very, very typical and of one of the most destructive impulses of the left, which is to legalize and criminalize everything. Tom, if you believe, I understand that people...
Everything?
I understand that people can disagree about the decision to go to war in Iraq. What do you believe, if you believe that this is in fact a war crime, where is the mens rea? What was the guilty intention? What was President Bush's real motive for going to war in Iraq?
That's a great question. And a lot of people have asked that question. And George Bush actually sat down with Mickey Herskowitz, who was the biographer. He was a good friend, a 20-year friend of the Bush family, Barbara and George Sr. And they hired him in 1999, when George Jr. was thinking of running for president. They hired him to ghostwrite A Charge to Keep, George W. Bush's autobiography, which you can find in the bookstores today. And he wrote the first draft. And in an on-the-record interview, Mickey Herskowitz talked about and has the recordings of a conversation that he had with George Bush in 1999, where he was talking about his father's failure to extend the Iraq war long enough into an election that he could win the election, at the second election. And he said, and the quote is out there, it's easy enough to find, it's been testified, you know, before Congress. I mean, you can find congressional testimony about this. He said, if I become president, if I have the ability to invade Iraq, I will do so, and I will use the political capital I derive from that to have a successful presidency and accomplish my agenda. And in earlier conversations, he had said that his agenda was things like privatizing Social Security. So I would say that he started this war for political purposes. He started this war because he thought that being a war president was the coolest thing possible. It would give him enormous power.
So did he also structure the attacks on 9/11? Was President Bush behind that too?
Do you think the attacks on 9/11 came from Iraq?
I beg pardon?
How many Iraqis were attacking us on 9/11?
No. The point is...
I just heard you say that 9/11 was caused by Iraq?
Tom,